Listen up. You're not broken. You're not cursed. You're not destined to stay stuck in mediocrity while watching everyone else level up on TikTok, Instagram. The truth? You've just been playing by the wrong rules. And today, we're throwing out that participation trophy mindset and replacing it with something the ancient Stoics figured out over 2,000 years ago. Rules so powerful, they turned slaves into philosophers and emperors into legends. I'm talking about Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, writing in his diary about controlling his thoughts. I'm talking about Epictetus, who went from literal chains to changing the world with his mind. These weren't self-help gurus selling you courses. They were real people facing real chaos, and they cracked the code to becoming unstoppable. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into 10 Stoic rules that'll transform you from someone who waits for life to happen into someone who makes it happen. Let's get it. Rule number 1. Control what you can, release what you can't. Here's the deal. You're wasting approximately 90% of your mental energy on things you cannot control. Your ex's new relationship? Can't control it. The weather ruining your plans? Can't control it. That promotion going to your less qualified coworker? You guessed it. Can't control it. And yet, you're out here losing sleep, cortisol levels through the roof, stress eating at midnight like it's going to change reality. The Stoics had a simple framework they called the dichotomy of control, and it's honestly so obvious it hurts. There are things within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your attitude, and there are things outside your control, literally everything else. Other people's opinions, outcomes, the past, natural events, the whole chaotic circus of existence. Epictetus put it brilliantly. We cannot control the external events, but we can control our response to them. Think about that. You don't control if you get stuck in traffic, but you can control whether you turn it into a rage-filled meltdown or use it as bonus podcast time. You don't control if someone disrespects you, but you absolutely control whether you let it ruin your week or if you move forward like the grown adult you are. Here's where it gets practical. Start asking yourself one question throughout your day. Is this within my control? Your boss is in a bad mood and snaps at you? Not your control. How you respond, whether you take it personally, whether you let it affect your work quality? Totally your control. Someone cuts you off in traffic? Not your control. Whether you tailgate them like a maniac or just shake your head and keep it moving? Your control. This isn't about being passive or becoming some emotionless robot. It's about directing your precious energy toward things that actually matter. It's about becoming the most powerful version of yourself by refusing to give away your peace to circumstances and people who don't deserve that power over you. Marcus Aurelius, literally running the Roman Empire with barbarians at the gates, plague devastating his people and traitors in his own court, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." If the Emperor of Rome could figure this out while the world was literally falling apart, you can figure it out when your Wi-Fi is slow. Start today. Make a list. 2 columns. Left side, things stressing you out that you can actually control. Right side, things stressing you out that you have zero control over. Now here's the fun part. Commit to working only on the left column and mentally releasing everything on the right. Watch how much lighter you feel. Watch how much more effective you become. Because here's the secret. The moment you stop fighting reality and start working with what's actually in your hands, you become unstoppable. Energy flows where attention goes, and you're about to redirect all of yours toward victory. Now, controlling what you can is step 1, but there's something even critical that most people completely ignore, and it's probably destroying your potential right now. Rule number 2. Your thoughts create your reality. Let's get uncomfortably real for a second. That voice in your head, the one narrating your entire existence, judging every situation, creating stories about what things mean, that voice is a compulsive liar, and you've been believing every word. The Stoics understood something neuroscience is only now confirming. Your thoughts aren't facts, they're interpretations, they're stories. And most of the time, they're terrible, inaccurate stories written by your fears, insecurities, and that one embarrassing thing you did in seventh grade that somehow still has psychological real estate in your brain. Marcus Aurelius dropped this absolute gem. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. Read that again. Your internal dialogue isn't just commentary, it's actively painting your entire reality. It's the difference between seeing an obstacle as a catastrophe versus seeing it as a challenge. It's the difference between interpreting silence from a friend as rejection versus understanding they're probably just busy living their own life. Here's where most people mess up. They think they are their thoughts. Wrong. You are the observer of your thoughts. You're the one watching the mental circus, not the circus itself. The moment you realize you can watch your thoughts, you gain the power to change them. Let me give you a real example. You wake up, check your phone, see you've got twice the work you expected today. Thought number one, this is going to be a terrible day. I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this. Boom, your body releases stress hormones, your energy drops, you're already defeated, and you haven't even started. Alternative thought, this is a lot, but I've handled more before. Let me prioritize and tackle this strategically. Same situation, completely different reality. One version of you is drowning, the other is problem solving. The Stoics practiced something they called premeditatio malorum, voluntary discomfort, imagining worst-case scenarios not to be depressed, but to build resilience and recognize that external circumstances don't control their inner state. You need to become the editor of your mental content. Start catching yourself in negative thought loops. I always mess up. Do you? Always? Or did you mess up once and your brain just loves drama? Nobody respects me. Nobody? Or did one person act dismissively and your mind spiraled into a Netflix limited series about your worthlessness? Here's your homework. For 1 week, keep a thought journal. When you notice a strong negative emotion, write down the thought that triggered it. Then challenge it. Is this thought factual or is it interpretation? What evidence contradicts this thought? What would I tell a friend thinking this way? You'll be shocked at how flimsy most of your negative thoughts are when you actually examine them. They crumble under the slightest scrutiny. And when they crumble, so does their power over you. Remember what Epictetus said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your thoughts are the bridge between what happens and how you react. Build better bridges. All right, you're controlling your circumstances and mastering your mind, but none of that matters if you're still living for other people's approval. And trust me, that's exactly what's holding you back from greatness.
Rule number 3, stop seeking external validation. Real talk, you're addicted to approval. We all are. It's hardwired into us from the days when being kicked out of the tribe meant death. But here's the plot twist. You're not living in a cave anymore, and the opinions of people who don't even like themselves shouldn't have any control over your life decisions. The Stoics were absolutely ruthless about this. Marcus Aurelius, who could have obsessed over what millions of Roman citizens thought about him, instead wrote, I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Think about how wild that is. You claim to be the main character of your life, but you let random side characters write your script? Here's what seeking external validation looks like in real life. You post something online and refresh compulsively to see who liked it, letting the number of hearts determine your mood for the next 3 hours. You choose a career path not because it aligns with your values, but because it sounds impressive at dinner parties. You dim your personality around certain people because you're terrified they might not approve of who you actually are. You're shape-shifting through life, becoming whoever you think people want you to be, and wondering why you feel empty inside. Spoiler alert, you can't build authentic success on a foundation of people-pleasing. It's like constructing a house on quicksand. The moment you stop performing, the whole thing collapses. Seneca put it perfectly. If you live for people's acceptance, you will die from their rejection. Brutal, true, life-changing. Because the moment you hand someone else the remote control to your self-worth, you've lost the game. They can change channels whenever they want. One day you're their favorite show, the next day you're canceled, and you had zero control over any of it. The antidote? Internal validation. Building a value system based on your principles, not the fluctuating opinions of others. Asking yourself, does this align with who I want to be? Instead of, what will people think? It's the difference between being directed by your compass versus being blown around by every gust of wind. Now, I'm not saying other people's feedback doesn't matter. Constructive criticism from people you respect, who have your best interests at heart, absolutely valuable. But Susan from high school, who peaked in sophomore year and now trolls people on Facebook, her opinion of your life choices is worth less than a participation trophy. Here's your action step. Identify 3 decisions you've made or avoided making in the past month based solely on fear of judgment. Now ask yourself, if you knew nobody would ever find out, nobody would ever judge you, what would you actually do? That gap between those 2 answers, that's the cost of living for external validation. That's the price you're paying for approval that doesn't even guarantee happiness. The Stoics believed in living according to nature, your authentic self. Not the Instagram highlight reel version, not the version that makes your parents proud at Thanksgiving. The real, messy, imperfect, but genuine you. Because that's the only version that can actually achieve fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, it never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Don't let that be your story anymore. Cutting off the validation addiction is huge, but it means nothing if you're not willing to do the one thing most people avoid at all costs, and it's coming up next.
Rule number 4. Embrace discomfort like it's your job. Here's something nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to understand. Comfort is killing your potential. You're so addicted to feeling good, staying safe, avoiding anything remotely uncomfortable that you've turned your life into a padded cell, and you're wondering why you're not growing. The Stoics didn't just tolerate discomfort, they actively pursued it. They understood something profound. Every single thing worth having in life exists on the other side of discomfort. Every skill, every relationship, every achievement, every version of yourself that you're proud of, all of it requires you to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship. He'd sleep on hard floors, eat simple meals, wear rough clothing, not because he was broke, but because he was training his mind. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" He was literally conditioning himself to not fear discomfort. He was removing its power. Think about your own life. How many opportunities have you passed up because they felt uncomfortable? How many conversations have you avoided? How many businesses have you not started? How many workouts have you skipped? How many creative projects have you abandoned? All because your brain said, "This feels uncomfortable, let's go scroll TikTok instead." Your brain is wired for survival, not success. It wants you safe, not exceptional. It'll tell you lies like, "You're not ready," or "It's not the right time," or "What if you fail?" because doing something new and uncomfortable triggers the same alarm bells that used to warn us about actual physical danger. But you're not being chased by a tiger. You're just being asked to have a difficult conversation, or learn a new skill, or put yourself out there. Here's the truth bomb. Discomfort is information. It's your internal GPS telling you, this is where growth lives. This is the edge of your current abilities. This is where you level up. Every time you lean into discomfort instead of running from it, you'll expand your capacity. You'll become more resilient, more capable, more confident. The gym is the perfect metaphor. Muscle growth happens when you tear muscle fibers by lifting weights that feel uncomfortable, literally damaging the tissue so it rebuilds stronger. You don't grow from lifting weights that feel easy. You grow from the last 3 reps that feel impossible. Life works the exact same way. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That obstacle you're avoiding, that's not blocking your path. That is the path. That difficult client who tests your patience is teaching you emotional regulation. That project that seems overwhelming is teaching you project management and resilience. That social anxiety you feel approaching new people is the exact doorway to developing social confidence. Here's your challenge. Every single day, do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. Have that conversation you've been avoiding. Take that cold shower. Sign up for that class. Send that email. Post that content. Make that call. Start that project. One uncomfortable action per day. In a year, that's 365 expansions of your comfort zone. You won't even recognize yourself. And here's the secret. Discomfort becomes less powerful the more you face it. The first cold shower is torture. The 50th, you barely flinch. The first time you speak in public, your hands shake. After 20 presentations, you're cracking jokes and commanding the room. Exposure creates adaptation. Avoidance creates stagnation. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for confidence. You build confidence by doing the thing scared. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. Every expert you admire was once a terrified beginner who did it anyway. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, imagining losing the things they valued, not to be morbid, but to appreciate what they had and prepare mentally for life's inevitable challenges. They were building psychological immunity through controlled exposure to discomfort in their minds, so that real-world discomfort wouldn't break them. You want to become your best self? Start treating discomfort like a gym for your character. Every rep makes you stronger. Every workout expands what's possible. And just like physical fitness, there's no shortcut. You can't buy it, you can't hack it. You have to earn it through consistent exposure to challenge. Remember, a ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. You weren't built for safety. You were built for growth, for challenge, for becoming someone remarkable. And that only happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable. So you're getting comfortable with discomfort. That's powerful. But there's one thing that'll sabotage all of it if you don't master this next rule, and most people are completely blind to it.
Rule number 5. Practice radical acceptance. Listen, I need you to understand something that's going to sound contradictory after everything we've talked about. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing. Just accept reality exactly as it is, without resistance, without trying to change it, without wishing it were different. This is radical acceptance, and it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in Stoicism. People hear acceptance and think giving up. Wrong. Acceptance isn't resignation. It's not lying down and letting life steamroll you. It's the opposite. It's refusing to waste energy fighting reality and instead directing that energy toward what you can actually influence. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, war, betrayal, and the constant threat of assassination. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." He wasn't saying let bad things happen and smile about it. He was saying acknowledge what is so you can work effectively with it rather than against it. Here's how this plays out in your life. You lose your job. You have two options. Option 1, spend weeks in denial, anger, bargaining, depression, running through all the stages of grief while your savings drain and opportunities pass. Option 2, accept it immediately. I lost my job. That's the reality. It sucks. Now what's my next move? One person is stuck in the past, emotionally paralyzed. The other has already accepted and moved to problem-solving mode. Your relationship ends. Option 1, obsess over what you could have done differently, stalk their social media, text them at 2 a.m., create elaborate fantasies about getting back together, let it consume you for months. Option 2, this relationship is over. It hurts. I accept it. Now I focus on healing and growth. See the difference? Acceptance doesn't mean you're happy about it. It means you stop arguing with reality. The Stoics had this concept called amor fati, love of fate. Not just accepting your fate, but embracing it, loving it, finding the opportunity in it. Nietzsche later expanded on this. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. That's next-level acceptance.
Here's where people mess this up. They think acceptance means passivity. My health is terrible. I accept it, so I'll just stay unhealthy. No, that's not acceptance, that's avoidance. True acceptance looks like, my health is terrible right now. I accept this current reality without judgment. Now, what actions can I take starting today to improve it? You accept where you are so you can effectively chart where you're going. Think about quicksand. If you struggle and fight and panic, you sink faster. If you accept the situation calmly and move deliberately, you can escape. Resistance to reality is the struggle that pulls you under. Acceptance is the calm that allows for effective action. Epictetus taught that we should distinguish between our judgments and reality itself. Something happens, that's reality, then we layer judgments on it. This is terrible, this shouldn't have happened, this is unfair. Those judgments create suffering. The event itself is neutral until we interpret it. Your flight gets canceled. Reality, flight canceled. Judgment, this is the worst thing ever, my whole trip is ruined, why does this always happen to me? Suffering, enormous. Alternative response, flight's canceled. That's inconvenient. Let me figure out alternatives. Still not ideal, but you're not creating extra suffering through resistance. Here's your practice. When something unwanted happens, pause before reacting. Take a breath. Say to yourself, this is what's happening right now. I accept this reality. Then ask, given this reality, what's the most effective next step? This simple practice will save you countless hours of emotional suffering and redirect that energy towards solutions. The paradox of acceptance is that it often creates change more effectively than resistance does. When you stop fighting reality, you stop being at war with yourself. You free up mental and emotional resources. You see situations more clearly. You make better decisions. You become more resilient. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. You can't control what happens. You can control whether you accept it or resist it, and that choice determines whether you suffer or whether you adapt and overcome. Radical acceptance isn't weakness. It's the ultimate form of strength, acknowledging reality without flinching, then moving forward with purpose. That's how you become unstoppable. Now, accepting reality is crucial, but it means nothing if you're not clear on something even more fundamental. And this next rule separates the people who drift through life from those who design it.
Rule number 6. Define your values and live by them. Pop quiz. What do you actually stand for? Not what sounds good at a dinner party, not what gets likes on social media. What are the actual principles that guide your decisions when nobody's watching? If you can't answer that immediately, you've identified your problem. The Stoics were obsessed with virtue, not virtue in the preachy, judgmental sense, but virtue as in excellence of character. They identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Everything they did was filtered through these values. Every decision, every action, every response, all aligned with their core principles. Here's why this matters for you. Without defined values, you're a leaf in the wind. You make decisions based on convenience, emotion, social pressure, whatever feels good in the moment. You wake up 10 years later wondering why you're unfulfilled despite having checked all the boxes society told you to check. Because you've been living someone else's values, not your own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. But how do you be one if you haven't defined what good means to you? You can't hit a target you haven't identified. You can't live by principles you've never articulated." Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say one of your core values is integrity, doing what you say you'll do, being honest even when it's difficult. Now you're at work, and your boss asks you to exaggerate some numbers on a report. Just a little, nobody'll know, you could benefit from it. What do? Without clearly defined values, you're in a tough spot. You'll rationalize, well, everyone does it, or it's just this once, or I need this job. But if integrity is a clearly defined core value for you, the decision is simple. Not easy, but simple. You don't compromise that value. You find another way, or you accept the consequences of living by your principles. The Stoics believed that the only true good is virtue, and the only true evil is vice. Everything else, money, health, reputation, success, they called preferred indifference, meaning, sure, they're nice to have, but they're not what determines your worth or your happiness. Your character is what matters. Your alignment with your values is what matters. Seneca captured this perfectly. What progress have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself. That friendship with yourself, it comes from value alignment. It comes from knowing that even when life gets messy, even when things don't go your way, you're living according to your principles. That creates unshakable self-respect. Here's your homework, and this is non-negotiable if you're serious about becoming your best self. Grab a piece of paper. Write down 5 to 7 core values. Not aspirational values, not values you think you should have, actual values that you want to define your life. Maybe it's growth, integrity, family, creativity, service, adventure, authenticity, whatever resonates with who you want to be. Then, for each value, write one specific way you're currently honoring it and one way you're currently violating it. Brutal honesty required. If you say you value health, but you haven't exercised in 6 months and you're eating like a raccoon in a dumpster, write that down. If you say you value family, but you've been too busy to actually connect with them meaningfully, acknowledge it. This isn't about shame. This is about clarity. You can't fix what you won't face. Once you see the gaps between your stated values and your actual behavior, you have a roadmap. You know exactly where to focus your efforts. The beauty of living by clearly defined values is that decision-making becomes exponentially easier. Should you take that job offer? Filter it through your values. Does it align with growth, integrity, whatever matters to you? Should you continue that relationship? Does it honor your values or violate them? Should you invest in that opportunity? Run it through your value system. Values act as your personal constitution. They're the laws you govern yourself by when nobody else is enforcing anything. They're what keep you aligned when external circumstances are chaotic. And here's the thing. The Stoics understood that you can't control outcomes, but you can control your character. You can't control if you succeed by society's metrics, but you can control whether you act with courage, wisdom, justice, and self-discipline. That's your true work. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Living by your values will sometimes make you unpopular. You'll turn down opportunities others jump at. You'll make choices that confuse people, but you'll sleep soundly knowing you're building a life of integrity, not just a life of accomplishments. Your values are your anchor in the storm. Define them, write them down, review them regularly, then live by them relentlessly. Even when, especially when, it's inconvenient. Because at the end of your life, you won't remember the times you compromised yourself for comfort. You'll remember the times you stood by your principles despite the cost. That's the stuff that creates genuine self-respect. That's what builds an unshakable foundation. All right, you've got your values locked in, but values without this next principle are just pretty words on paper. Let me show you what actually makes them stick.
Rule number 7. Discipline equals freedom. I know what you're thinking. Discipline? That sounds restrictive. I want freedom. And that's exactly why you're struggling, because you've got it completely backward. The Stoics understood something that most people never figure out. Discipline doesn't limit freedom. It creates it. Let me break this down. You hit snooze 5 times every morning. You skip workouts. You procrastinate on important projects. You give in to every impulse and craving. You think that's freedom? That's slavery. You're enslaved to your weakest impulses. You're controlled by comfort, by instant gratification, by the path of least resistance. You're not free. You're just undisciplined. Real freedom looks like this. You set your alarm and you get up when it goes off, regardless of how you feel. You do the work even when you don't feel like it. You choose the healthy meal over the junk food. You invest time in growth instead of scrolling endlessly. And because you have that discipline, you have the freedom to achieve your goals, to respect yourself, to build the life you actually want instead of settling for whatever life your impulses create. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, wrote, "You have power over your mind.
not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And he used that power to discipline his mind, to wake up early despite not wanting to fulfill his duties despite preferring to do literally anything else. He understood that self-discipline was the gateway to actual freedom. Think about financial freedom, something everyone wants. How do you get it? Through the discipline of saving instead of spending on impulse, living below your means, investing consistently, saying no to short-term pleasure for long-term security. That discipline creates the freedom to quit jobs you hate, to travel, to help others, to live without financial stress. Without discipline, you're trapped in debt, controlled by bills, enslaved to a paycheck. Or think about physical freedom. You want to be able to hike, play with your kids, feel confident in your body, have energy to pursue your goals. That freedom comes from the discipline of consistent exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep. Without discipline, your body deteriorates. You're controlled by low energy, limited by poor health, trapped in discomfort. The pattern is clear. Discipline creates options. Lack of discipline creates limitations. Epictetus was sold as a slave, but became one of the most influential philosophers in history because he disciplined his mind. He couldn't control his circumstances, but he could control his responses, his thoughts, his development. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you can't control yourself, you're not free. You're just reacting to stimuli like a lab rat. Here's where most people go wrong with discipline. They try to overhaul everything at once. From Monday, I'm waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym, eating perfectly, reading for 2 hours, building my business, meditating, journaling, and learning a new language. By Wednesday, they've collapsed back into old patterns, convinced discipline isn't for them. Wrong approach. Discipline is a muscle. You build it gradually. Start with one area, master it, then add another. Maybe you start with making your bed every morning. Sounds trivial? It's not. It's you proving to yourself that you can commit to something and follow through. That tiny act of discipline ripples outward. The Stoics practiced what they called ascesis, spiritual exercises, discipline training. They'd voluntarily endure cold, hunger, discomfort, not because they were masochists, but because they were building resilience and self-control. They understood that every time you choose discipline over impulse, you're strengthening that muscle. Here's your challenge. Pick one area of your life where lack of discipline is costing you. Be specific. Maybe it's your morning routine, your diet, your work habits, your spending, your scrolling addiction. Just one area. Now implement one disciplined action in that area for 30 days. Non-negotiable, no exceptions, no excuses. Let's say it's your morning routine. Your disciplined action: alarm goes off at 6 a.m., feet hit the floor within 60 seconds, no snooze. That's it. 30 days. Watch what happens. You'll build confidence. You'll prove you can keep commitments to yourself, and that confidence spills into other areas. The beautiful paradox is that discipline becomes easier the more you practice it, and freedom expands proportionally. At first, getting up at 6 a.m. is torture. After 30 days, it's automatic. You've created a new baseline. Now you add the next discipline. Maybe it's 20 minutes of movement after waking up. Build that for 30 days. Stack another discipline. Within a year, you've transformed your life through small, disciplined actions that compound. You're not the same person. You've built a foundation of self-trust, capability, and freedom that nothing can shake. Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." That's the goal. Not controlling others, not accumulating power over external things, but mastering yourself. Because the moment you master yourself, you're free. You're no longer jerked around by cravings, emotions, impulses, external validation. You choose your responses. You direct your energy. You create your outcomes. Discipline isn't about being rigid or joyless. It's about being intentional.
It's the difference between being reactive and being proactive. It's the difference between letting life happen to you and making life work for you. And here's the ultimate truth. You already know what you need to do. The workout you're skipping, the project you're avoiding, the conversation you need to have, the habit you need to break. You know. What's missing isn't information, it's discipline. It's the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel about it. Marcus Aurelius faced this every day. He'd wake up and his mind would say, "Stay in bed. It's warm. You're tired. You're the emperor. Nobody can tell you what to do." And he'd respond to his own mind, "I have to go to work. This is what I was born to do. Am I going to complain about doing what I was made for?" That's discipline. That's mastery. Your best self is on the other side of consistent, disciplined action. Not perfect action, not flawless execution, just consistent showing up, day after day, choosing what you know serves you over what feels good in the moment. Start today, one discipline. Prove to yourself that you can do hard things, because you absolutely can. You just have to practice. Discipline is your foundation, but it needs fuel, and this next rule provides the energy that keeps everything running even when life tries to break you.
Rule number 8. Memento mori. Remember you will die. Dark? Maybe. Essential? Absolutely. The Stoics were borderline obsessed with death, and before you think that's morbid, understand why. Remembering death is the most powerful tool for living fully. Memento mori, remember you will die. The Stoics didn't say this to be depressing. They said it to wake you up. Because most people sleepwalk through life assuming they have unlimited time, putting off their dreams, tolerating mediocrity, staying in situations that drain them, avoiding risks because there's always tomorrow. Plot twist. There isn't always tomorrow. For some people, tomorrow never comes. And every single day you spend not living according to your values, not pursuing what matters, not being present with people you love, that's a day you never get back. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine living every day with that awareness, not in a panic, but in clarity. What would you prioritize? What would you stop tolerating? What conversations would you have? What risks would you take? Steve Jobs wasn't a Stoic, but he nailed this concept. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. That's memento mori in action. Here's what happens when you forget death. You waste time on trivial things. You hold grudges for years. You avoid vulnerability. You chase status symbols instead of meaning. You procrastinate on what matters because you assume you'll get to it eventually. You take people for granted. You live in the future or the past instead of the present. Here's what happens when you remember death. Everything sharpens. Time becomes precious. You stop sweating the small stuff. You have those difficult conversations because who knows if you'll get another chance. You tell people you love them. You pursue what genuinely matters to you instead of what impresses others. You show up fully because this moment is all you're guaranteed. The Stoics practiced negative visualization as part of memento mori. Seneca would imagine this being his last day. Epictetus would kiss his child goodnight and acknowledge that he might not see them in the morning. Not to be paranoid or anxious, but to appreciate what they had while they had it and to live accordingly. Think about someone you've lost. Maybe a friend, family member, someone who was just here and then wasn't. Remember that feeling. That shock of, I thought there was more time. That regret of things unsaid, time not spent together, priorities misplaced. Memento mori is about not waiting for that loss to remind you. It's about living now with the awareness that every loss eventually taught you. Here's your practice, and I know it's intense, but do it anyway. Spend 5 minutes today imagining it's your last day alive. Really sit with it. What do you regret not doing? Who do you wish you'd connected with? What risks do you wish you'd taken? What time did you waste that you want back? Then ask yourself, why are you waiting? What's the excuse? I'm too young is what people who died young thought too.
I'll do it when I'm more established, is what people who never got established told themselves. There's plenty of time is the lie everyone believes until they run out of time.
Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, still reminded himself daily that death was coming. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. He wasn't being morose, he was being realistic. Death strips away pretense and reveals what actually matters. Your possessions? Can't take them. Your status? Meaningless when you're gone. Your grudges and fears and insecurities? Evaporate. What remains? The impact you had on others, the love you gave and received, the character you built, the moments you were fully present for. That's it. Memento mori also kills comparison and envy. When you remember everyone dies, the billionaire, the Instagram influencer, the person with the perfect life, it's equalizing. We're all temporary. None of this matters as much as we think it does. That promotion you didn't get? Irrelevant in the cosmic scale. That embarrassing moment? Nobody will remember it. And even if they do, everyone dies anyway. This isn't nihilism. It's the opposite. It's recognizing that because time is limited, how you spend it matters enormously. Because death is inevitable, living fully is imperative. Because nothing lasts forever, everything is precious. The Stoics used memento mori to fuel gratitude. Every morning you wake up is a gift you're not guaranteed. Every person you interact with could be the last interaction. Every sunset, every laugh, every challenge, all temporary, all valuable because they're temporary. Here's what changes when you really internalize memento mori. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop playing it safe out of fear. You stop letting trivial things steal your peace. You stop putting off what matters. You become radically present, intentional, and alive. Seneca said it best, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." You're not running out of time, you're just spending it poorly. Memento mori is the wake-up call. The question isn't, what if I die tomorrow? It's, what if I don't, and I spend the next 40 years living like I did yesterday? Death is coming for all of us. The only question is, will you live first? Really live, not just exist. Pursue what matters. Love hard, risk failure, create something, help someone, be present. Build a life that when your time comes, you're at peace with. Remember, you will die. Now go live like it matters, because it does. Understanding your mortality gives life urgency, but urgency without this final principle leads to burnout and bitterness. This last rule ties everything together. Rule number 9. Focus on progress, not perfection. Let me guess. You've started something with massive enthusiasm, hit your first obstacle or imperfect result, and completely quit. Sound familiar? Welcome to the club of literally everyone who's ever tried to improve themselves. But here's where the Stoics had it figured out, and where you're probably getting it wrong. You're obsessed with perfection. You want the perfect body, the perfect business, the perfect relationship, the perfect morning routine, and because perfection is impossible, you're constantly disappointed, constantly starting over, constantly feeling like a failure, despite actually making progress. Epictetus said, "Wherever you find yourself, make the best of it. Not make it perfect, not make it Instagram-worthy. Make the best of it. That's the standard. Continuous improvement, not flawless execution." The Stoics called this concept making progress toward virtue, or prokope. It wasn't about achieving some perfect enlightened state. It was about being slightly better today than you were yesterday. Small, consistent improvements compounding over time. That's how transformation actually happens. Think about it practically. You decide to get healthy. Perfection mindset says, I need to work out 6 days a week, eat 0 processed foods, sleep 8 hours every night, meditate daily, and track every calorie. You do this for 4 days. On day 5, you sleep through your alarm and eat pizza. Perfection mindset says, I failed. I'm not cut out for this. What's the point? And you quit entirely. Progress mindset says, I'm working on being healthier. Today, I chose a salad for lunch and took a 20-minute walk. Yesterday, I didn't. That's progress.
Day 5, when you sleep in and eat pizza? That happened. What's one healthy choice I can make today anyway? And you keep going. Not perfectly, but consistently. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor and philosopher, constantly reminded himself of his own imperfections. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Was he being negative? No, he was being realistic. He was setting expectations based on progress, not perfection. He knew he'd encounter challenges, so when they showed up, he wasn't derailed. Here's the trap of perfectionism. It's actually just fear wearing a mask. You set impossible standards so that when you inevitably don't meet them, you have an excuse to quit. I'm just not good at this. It's not for me. That protects your ego, but it destroys your growth. Progress, on the other hand, is honest and sustainable. It acknowledges you're flawed, you'll mess up, you'll have setbacks, and none of that negates your improvement. You're not competing with some fictional, perfect version of yourself. You're competing with who you were yesterday. Seneca captured this beautifully. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Perfectionists are anxious because they're constantly comparing reality to impossible standards. People focused on progress appreciate where they've come from, engage with where they are, and work toward where they're going. No anxiety required. Here's your reframe. Stop asking, "Am I there yet?" Start asking, "Am I moving in the right direction?" Stop measuring yourself against others or against fantasy. Start measuring yourself against your past self. Are you kinder than you were 6 months ago? More disciplined, more knowledgeable, healthier, braver? If yes, you're winning. The beautiful thing about progress is that it's forgiving. Perfection requires 100% every single time. Progress just requires more than 0%. You worked out twice this week when you used to not work out at all? Progress. You had a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it like you usually do? Progress. You caught yourself in a negative thought pattern and redirected? Progress. This mindset also kills comparison. Someone else is further along than you? Irrelevant. They're on their path. You're on yours. The only question that matters, are you ahead of where you were? That's the only comparison worth making. The Stoics understood that virtue, the cultivation of character, was a lifelong pursuit. Nobody arrived. Even the wisest Stoics saw themselves as students, always learning, always improving. Marcus Aurelius was literally the emperor, and he still saw himself as a work in progress, constantly checking himself, adjusting, learning. Here's your action step. Track progress, not perfection. Pick 3 areas you're working on. Maybe it's fitness, career, relationships. Each week, write down one way you progressed in each area. Not whether you were perfect, just whether you moved forward in some way, however small. I had one more healthy meal than last week. I sent that email I'd been avoiding. I listened without interrupting during that conversation. These add up. Over time, you'll have documented evidence of your growth, and when your brain tries to tell you you're not making progress, you can point to concrete examples that prove otherwise. Data beats feelings. Also, celebrate small wins. Perfectionists wait for massive achievements to feel good, so they rarely feel good. People focused on progress celebrate incremental improvement, so they're consistently encouraged and motivated. You moved forward, acknowledge it. That matters. The paradox is that focusing on progress actually gets you further than chasing perfection. Because you maintain momentum. You don't quit when you stumble. You don't need ideal conditions to start or continue. You just keep showing up, keep improving, keep moving forward. And that consistency over time creates results that perfectionists, constantly starting over, never achieve. Remember what Epictetus taught. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You're going to mess up. You're going to have bad days. You're going to fall short of your goals sometimes. How you react, whether you quit in shame or adjust and continue, that determines everything. Progress is the path. Perfection is the illusion that keeps you stuck. Choose progress. Choose consistency over intensity. Choose showing up imperfectly over not showing up at all. That's how you become your best self. Not through one perfect day, but through thousands of imperfect days where you chose to keep going.
Rule number 10. Serve something bigger than yourself. Here it is, the rule that separates people who achieve success from people who achieve significance. You can master your mind, control your reactions, build discipline, face discomfort, define your values, and still feel empty inside. Want to know why? Because you're making it all about you. The Stoics understood something profound that modern self-help often misses. True fulfillment doesn't come from self-improvement for its own sake. It comes from using your improved self in service of something larger. Marcus Aurelius called it living according to nature and serving the common good. He wrote, "What is to be done must be done with integrity and without complaining." A man doesn't retire from life, but a man's life is worthwhile only when it contributes to the whole. Think about that. The most powerful man in Rome believed his life only mattered if it served others. Here's the harsh truth. Your abs, your bank account, your Instagram followers, your perfect morning routine, none of it means anything if it's purely self-serving. You can be the most optimized, disciplined, successful version of yourself and still feel purposeless. Because humans are wired for contribution. We need to matter to something beyond our own comfort and achievement. Look at the science. Study after study shows that people who serve others, who contribute to their communities, who work toward causes bigger than themselves, they're happier, healthier, more resilient, and yes, more successful in the long run. It's not just philosophy, it's biology. We're social creatures built for cooperation and contribution. Epictetus, who spent part of his life as a slave with zero control over his circumstances, still found meaning through teaching and helping others develop wisdom. He couldn't control his freedom, but he could control his contribution. He said, "What ought one to say then as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this." Practicing so he could guide others through their hardships. Now, I'm not saying abandon your goals. I'm not saying don't build wealth or achieve your dreams. I'm saying build them so you can contribute more effectively. Get healthy so you have energy to serve. Build wealth so you can help more people. Develop discipline so you can model it for others. Make your growth about something bigger and watch how much more motivated you become. Here's what happens when you shift from pure self-interest to service. First, your goals gain meaning. Working out isn't just about looking good, it's so you can be present and active with your family for decades. Building your business isn't just about money, it's about creating jobs, solving problems, contributing value. Learning and growing isn't just for personal development, it's so you can teach and inspire others. Second, obstacles become easier to face. When you're only serving yourself, quitting is easy. This is hard, I don't feel like it, maybe I'm not meant to do this. But when you're serving something bigger, your family, your community, a cause you believe in, you find reserves of strength you didn't know existed. You push through because it's not just about you anymore. Third, success becomes more fulfilling. Making your first million feels great. Using that million to change lives feels transcendent. Achieving your goals feels satisfying. Achieving your goals and knowing others benefited feels purposeful. There's a reason every major philosophical and religious tradition emphasizes service. It unlocks a level of meaning that pure self-interest can never reach.
Marcus Aurelius faced plague, war, and betrayal. He could have focused solely on survival, on protecting his own interests. Instead, he worked tirelessly to serve Rome, to be the emperor his people needed. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And his thoughts were consistently directed towards service. Here's your challenge. Answer these questions honestly. What are you building that will outlast you? Who are you helping? What problem in the world are you working to solve? If your honest answers are nothing, nobody,
and none. You've identified why you feel unfulfilled despite your achievements. Now, service doesn't have to be grandiose. You don't need to cure diseases or end poverty. Service can be mentoring one person, volunteering in your community, being the stable, supportive person in your family, creating content that helps others, building a business that solves real problems, raising good humans. Whatever aligns with your abilities and circumstances, but something beyond your own consumption and comfort. The Stoics believed in oikeiosis, the idea that we have expanding circles of concern, starting with ourselves, but extending to family, community, country, humanity, and ultimately all of nature. Your job is to keep expanding those circles. Start where you are, help who you can, contribute what you have. Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." That's service in its simplest form. Every interaction is a chance to contribute, to make someone's day slightly better, to add value instead of taking it. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you serve something bigger than yourself, you become bigger too. Your problems shrink when you're focused on solving others' problems. Your purpose clarifies when you're contributing to purposes beyond your own. Your life expands when you're investing in lives beyond your own. Think about the people you most admire. Are they admired for their abs and bank accounts, or for what they've contributed, for how they've served, for the lives they've changed? Legacy isn't about what you accumulate, it's about what you contribute. This is the rule that brings everything full circle. You control what you can, so you can be effective in serving. You master your thoughts so they don't distract you from your purpose. You embrace discomfort so you can help others through theirs. You build discipline so you're reliable in your service. You remember death so you serve urgently while you can. You focus on progress so you become more capable of contributing. It all connects. Your best self isn't the version of you with perfect circumstances and maximum comfort. Your best self is the version of you that makes the biggest positive difference in the world. That's the ultimate Stoic goal, to use your brief time on Earth to contribute something meaningful, to leave it slightly better than you found it. So there you have it. 10 Stoic rules that have stood the test of 2,000 years because they're not just philosophy, they're proven principles for building an unshakable life. Control what you can. Master your mind. Stop seeking validation. Embrace discomfort. Accept reality. Define your values. Build discipline. Remember death. Focus on progress. Serve something bigger. None of this is easy. If it were, everyone would do it. But you're not everyone, are you? You're someone who watched this entire video because you're done settling. You're done making excuses. You're ready to become the person you know you're capable of being. Here's what I need you to do right now. Pick one rule, just one, and commit to implementing it this week. Not perfectly, just genuinely. Start small, build momentum. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment, and you didn't come here to be entertained. You came here to transform. If this resonated with you, subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of people who refuse to coast through life, who choose growth over comfort, who understand that becoming your best self is the most important work you'll ever do. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video, and drop a comment telling me which rule hit you hardest. Which one are you implementing first? Let's hold each other accountable. This journey isn't meant to be done alone. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop waiting, stop planning, stop preparing to get ready to start eventually. Begin now. Become now. Your best self isn't some future version. It's who you choose to be in this moment and the next and the next. The Stoics gave us the blueprint.
Now it's on you to build. Let's get it.